We are starting a new series. Woo! It is called Things You May Be Getting Wrong About God. I'm going to say that again because I want it to be, I just want you to really hear the heaviness in it, right? I think it's something that you hear that title and you're like, ooh, it's mysterious. So we're starting a new series and it's called Things You May Be Getting Wrong About God. And we are sitting down with three different theologians. So it's going to be a 3-part series and asking them what they think we may be getting wrong about God. But I wanted to open our series by sharing with you a bit from my heart on what I think I learned in 2022 that I hope is going to increase my spiritual vision in 2023. And hopefully, as I share it with you, it will help increase yours. I think we are getting I'm going to just speak for myself. I think I was getting some stuff wrong about God. And I was hurting myself by creating these unmet relational expectations between God and I. And I just want to share this with you, what I'm learning and seeing to hopefully put us on a similar page as we start the series. And God being God gave me the perfect chapter of scripture to go through with you today for this conversation to illustrate my point. It is Isaiah chapter 30. We're going to look at verses 1-3, and we are going to start in verse 1 before skipping down to some more verses, and eventually we'll close out in verses 19-21. So if you are listening at home where you have access to a Bible, I would love if you actually opened it for this episode. I think it would be really good for you to highlight some of these verses just so you can really remember primacy, recency. So you can remember what we talk about. And then next year, maybe as you go through your scripture again, you guys know I like reading the Bible every year. As we go through it again, we just remember, oh man, I remember that from last year when I learned these points. But I want to start in Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1. And it says this: Woe to the rebellious children. This is the Lord's declaration. They carry out a plan, but not mine. I'm going to say that again. Woe to the rebellious children. This is the Lord's declaration. Oh, they carry out a plan, but it's not mine. Whew. I am probably the only person on the planet who will read you that quote from Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1, and then connect it to a Taylor Swift lyric. But in her song Mastermind, she says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Strategy sets the scene for the tale. And I think that's the message we get from culture, right? That's the message we get. And I think for a long time, this is what I was getting wrong about God, because I get upset when God doesn't move according to the plan. Like, God, this is the plan. Aren't you paying attention? Aren't you watching? God, I have to have a plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, Taylor Swift says. I have to have a plan. And yet Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1 says, woe to my rebellious children because they carry out a plan, but it's not mine. Here is what I want you to get right before God. How do we lay our plans this year, this month, today before the Lord? What if the plan that you are angry that God isn't fulfilling right now was never God's plan for you? What if God is saying, yeah, you have a plan, but it was never mine. You didn't ask me. And if you would just lay that plan down before me, if you could just let it go, if you could lay it down, and if you could trust me, I could set your feet on a different path. God is going to continue this line of thinking to the children of Israel in Isaiah chapter 30. But I want to pause for a moment and ask you if it is possible that scripture that was meant to help govern Israel themselves may also be relevant to the church today as we figure out how to live our lives in this world. God speaks this prophecy to Israel through Isaiah at a time when the Assyrian army was attacking Israel and Judah, more specifically, before the people are taken into exile. The rest of verse 1 says, they make an alliance, but against my will. So the children of Israel, so specifically Judah, is looking to figure out, how do we save ourselves? Have you ever been there? How do I save myself? I have to have a plan. And so their plan is to be saved by Egypt. And God says, that's your plan, not mine. Verse 2 and 3 continue, without asking my advice, they set out to go down to Egypt in order to seek shelter under Pharaoh's protection. They want Pharaoh's protection and take refuge in Egypt's shadow. Verse 3, but Pharaoh's protection will become your shame, and refuge in Egypt's shadow your humiliation. Woe to my children who have plans, but they are not mine.